Hey Jamie, how you doing?
Good morning. How are you? Show and tell.
What's
We
that?
did talk about show and tell, and yeah, and knowing that, I went and got.
Ah, nice. I like that bag too.
It's kind of a great bag. It's
So
like it
shiny.
spoke to me. Marketing.
Right. The color red. Oh, this camera is way too close. Not that the audio of these drop before the video, so nobody can see at the moment that I'm moving my camera. But to start off, so I hope you can see me in my camouflage,
Yes.
all my optical illusions. So I wanted to bring up the Coast. I think it's a nice. They
I like
do
the
this
bag.
typically. It's a simple
Yeah.
bag, but then they throw a sticker on it. But they always get custom art done for every flavor that they make. So this is rootless, and they have it's called Coast, and it is says here too. Artwork by Leanna Kangas. So on the back too.
I
So
love
it's
that. Like the brand shout out back to the artist. That's good.
yeah, I think it's super cool. And they're all cool and different. They have a different thing and they match it with a bag color. This is a nice little lavender. Anyway, so then I wanted to point out too, if you can see it, I don't know if you can, the Huehue Tenango, Guatemala. So
And if you're wondering, if you're listening to this one as the current one, and you're wondering what all that's about, go back and listen to the last episode,
that's right.
and that's all I'll just say.
Exactly. You got
But
to
yes,
go backward to go forward.
well, right. And so I am having the chameleon again, and the getting close to the end of this bag, so that's going to mean something.
Have to
But
change
it's not just I said it was a dark, but it's not just dark. It's a smoky dark chocolate, and I think that maybe is explanation enough for the audience of why Jamie probably is going to buy this one again.
Nice. So is that did you say that was a dark roast?
Dark
Smoky
roast.
dark.
Smoky dark chocolate.
So
Even.
isn't it typically dark roasts are actually less caffeine and light roasts are more caffeine?
That I don't know. If
That's
that's
what I was
true,
told.
if that is true, I'll maybe believe you.
Well, that's the fact finding mission for today.
Yeah, but they're not accounting for the fact that you might have 4 or 5 cups in that.
Yeah, nobody accounts for the architect's consumption.
No. Yeah, there's a different level. Like
it's how many? It's usually 2 hands.
Just give me a bucket.
Yeah. Oh, well, one thing to shout out our friend Joel, who's been on the podcast.
That cup is so big.
And I on purpose, I use that every morning because it can fit more than the definition of a cup.
Yeah, you're like, Danielle, don't worry. Like, I'm just gonna have 1
or 2
from Joel's cup.
We got to have him back on. I got to get a little schedule.
Yeah, we got a couple guests. I mean, I sent you that message about the strange. Jamie stumbled on a strange video of a comedian talking about architecture, and it was actually funny. I mean, it was like one of those like 2-minute clips on the interwebs, and I don't know who that comedian is. Have no clue. But fun fact: Jason's brother is a comedian.
Oh,
yes, and quite good, and actually has a film too. So that has been making the circuit of film festivals. So it's cool. It's quite funny. But yeah, and Doug lives here in Austin and I've known Doug as long as I've known Jason, because it's his little brother. And yeah, and he's pretty funny, loves drawings as well. So he'd be fun to have on the pod, and he's more than willing to do it. So we're slowly generating our guest list again. So
can he roast our sketches?
That would be pretty fun. Yeah, we could do that.
Did you like that pun?
Yes.
Yes. A nice light roast of our coffee sketches.
Very nice light roast. Yes.
Oh, that was
that's good.
Purely accidental. But I win.
We're not scripting this at all.
I won that one. Yeah. This is not. That was off the cuff, as they say in the biz.
All right, so let's get to the sketches.
There's a few.
This is like lightning round today.
We're gonna try and lightning round through 3, because I got to get in gear and then go teach some students.
3 on a theme.
And so we have. I'll start with this one. Should I flip to the other 2 real quick?
Yeah, why not?
We have this beautiful sketch here. Number 2, which is so far kind of emerging as my favorite, but it's a little different. And then number 3, which also is very interesting, and they all have the same theme in Jamie's intention in putting them together. So where would you like to? I guess the only script we had talked about was that you were gonna drop a little preface, and then you're gonna let me talk.
I kind of just walk through the sketch and you give me your thoughts. I mean, yeah, I think part of it was that the preface, when I say there's 3 on a theme, is that any architect who has ever thought about at some point in their life, like, when I get to design a place for myself, what would that be? And so sometimes your brain kind of goes there. Sometimes you do it multiple times at different points in your career, which is sort of fun too. And so what I found myself, and I do this all the time, is I'm always sort of trying to digest architecture from different places, trying to get ideas, trying to understand what other people are working on, what trends are happening, what can I learn from somebody else's work. And so you're always sort of digesting things. And I found myself in about a week's time or so was looking at a lot of kind of vacation type properties. And it was just work of different designers. And so I was kind of doing that, and kind of resort, and not necessarily resort in the sense like hospitality resort or something like that. But there was definitely a trend of things that I just found myself kind of looking at for where my head was at, I guess. Maybe I just need to go on a trip. But in doing that, then I found myself generating sketches, and there's multiple ones that aren't even printed here that I didn't take pictures of just additional kind of thoughts and things that it sort of sparked in my head. And that's where so there's elements of these that are probably inspired by somebody else's work, but then some of it's also inspired by places that I've been, and then also some past work. Some stuff just lives in a sketchbook and never ever sees the light of day of a project. So these are sort of an amalgam, I think, of some of those ideas and techniques. Also, again, playing with the sort of the presentation techniques of them. My friend Jet there making a comment about about both the image, but also the technique on the diagonal across the binding. So Jet's a fabulous designer and an old friend.
And he's a smart person who's figured out one of Jamie's key little tricks or techniques is the diagonal on the binding, strong. But so I think I appreciate the starting point. I do kind of get the sense of like the sort of your resort, or maybe sort of getaway house or getaway place. It's kind of tucked into some landscaping, definitely orientation to views and openness and in areas for glazing, and then sort of closed down in other areas for privacy, things like that. The one that I'm starting with is this sort of the second of the third or second of the three that we have, right? We have in this sequence here. So the one I'll just call the second one, but I guess what stands out is like the contrast between this vertical sort of tower, modern looking tower element, and then the horizontality of the rest of the house, and this sort of long sloping metal roof and a chimney sort of stone in the middle. It kind of, I would think it sort of reminds me of like Ray Cappy. I don't know if Ray Cappy's work, but his own house is more of a flat roof thing, but it has like this interesting use of materials and setting into the landscape to where it's very kind of built in to the hillside or slope, that it seems like it was always there. But unlike his house, you have this sort of tower element, which is, to me, we've talked about, Danielle and I, the potential to maybe build our own house one day. And currently we're thinking about like a ranch style as far as a single floor layout, which would be the main house of yours to the left.
Right.
But I've always been sort of infatuated with vertical structures, even if it has a tiny floor plate. Like this thing is like one room, but it's stacked. And then it even has a little roof deck, which is very cool. And then it's sort of stacks into the hillside on a sort of stone plinth base. It's very rustic looking. And anyway, so maybe maybe this will be the house that Danielle and I build. We'll have to hire you to design the rest of it, because it has maybe some elements for both of us. The little turret, which I could make a nice studio out of, and a home office, and then the ranch rest of the house with nice outdoor indoor spaces. So anyway, this is paint this picture of like, I would like to buy this plan.
Well, and it's funny because it's like what you're sort of picking up in sort of the sketch is, these are just moments, right? It's sort of ideas and moments that you want to capture on the page in a quick sketch. And the three things that you sort of picked up on were like the hearth, the idea of a fireplace, the hearth, kind of the center of a home, or the gathering point. And literally in the sketch, you sort of see it as like, I put it literally in the middle of the building and kind of let the building kind of wrap it a bit, but then kept the building itself as a form relatively simple. As we know, the simpler the building gets and the crisper the details, probably the more expensive it gets as well. But along those lines, though, the floor plan doesn't necessarily need to be complicated to be kind of functionally what we would want in a structure or a house or a home or retreat. But the kind of, just like you, I've always sort of been fascinated with like the tree house, and getting up in a smaller space. It doesn't have to be like, I'm not interested in necessarily doing a skyscraper per se, but the idea of kind of getting up in this like little bit of an extrusion of form, and recognizing that it's going to be a counterpoint to the rest of the building. That was sort of I was really kind of playing with this idea of like, how can you make this sort of rustic, indoor, outdoor, simple, straightforward shed form, and then how do you add a tower to it? and what could that be? And can it be really different? How big is too big? What kind of roof does it get? How do you cap it? And so those are some of the ideas that were sort of floating around, and I tried to capture. And again, I think, like you said, with all three sketches, it's this kind of a building in the landscape, kind of thinking about, it's a sightless site. These don't necessarily exist, but it's conceptually sort of thinking about how you might approach program pieces and kind of desires for a project, and capturing them on the page. So
yeah, it actually, there's another thing that just thought of, like the last episode where we talked about the Sears catalog of houses. I mean, this is the cell right here. It's like we just painted the picture, and your drawing sets the tone and sort of captures the idea, or maybe a couple of ideas. Even the sort of extra line work in the low building for siding and other detail, but then the tower is clean and sleek as if it's like more of a tighter monolithic material. So there's a contrast in there, but it still works together from a massing or position standpoint. We don't try not to use too much jargon, but so that's
and that's the thing is, as you say it, it's like one thing we haven't talked about in episodes in a while is I'll get this building drawn in the sketchbook, and and you can see sort of where I'm really working certain areas because I'm trying to, I'm figuring it out on the page with the pen, and I'm still working fast. But then when I get to the end of it, and that's why I'm enjoying this conversation, is I'm critiquing it too. Like there's parts of it, like if I was to revisit this as if this was step one, what's step two look like? Step two wouldn't necessarily have the same image. And I probably need to do more of that myself. And maybe that's a whole new trend for the sketchbook that maybe we'll see.
Right. It's always like, what's around the corner, right? How do you turn this thing around the side that we don't see? And the last thing I'll say, because I will have to do this, make this a little bit of a quick one, but the last thing is, and it's a compliment, sort of in comparison to the old anecdotal story we have of Frank Lloyd Wright when designing Falling Water. He got hired to design that house. I don't know if you've heard this story, but then sits on the work, right? He's got the contract, hasn't really done any work. So the story goes, gets a phone call from the client. Luckily, he didn't have email, so he didn't have to turn something around right away. But apparently, client was supposed to arrive the next day or something. I can't remember exactly, but so Frank Lloyd Wright sits down and draws this 3-dimensional perspective sketch of falling water from the vantage point that we all know that if you're familiar with the building, looking across the creek at the house, up the hill, blah, blah, blah. And he supposedly did that drawing in like 4 hours from no concept sketches, floor plans, anything at all, right? Just churns out this and sells the project, right? Like the client loves it and says, okay, let's go. And so Jamie's got, and in this case, probably 10 minutes into a design, 20 minutes, maybe max, maybe. And so you should just kind of turn around and go, hand it to, is this what you want to build? Yeah. sell it off. Or any of the other 2 sketches, which are also very interesting, which we haven't talked about them in particular, but it's in the similarities across all 3 is the development, some of the massing aspects. There's the horizontal and vertical, and some of the materiality too. And so anyway, that's my compliment to you. Is go out and sell these things now.
yeah, like make a flip book and turn it into a catalog, and I'll see you later. I'm just gonna go
put the price tag down.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is cool. I mean, I know we did kind of do this pretty quick, but hopefully we'll see some more of these, some more tower designs, tree houses, and then talk about it some more in the future.
Awesome.